What's up, everyone, and welcome to Shared Save the Game Media's weekly gaming discussion podcast. I am your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're talking all about Saros potentially underperforming in sales. Xbox is adding more tiers to Game Pass, and the Nintendo Switch 2 is getting a price increase before that and more. Got to introduce my co-host, hanging out with me as always, Sam Heaney. How are you, my friend?
It's a weird one this week, you know. Like I'm good, but there's like just a whole lot going on, you know, in the world and personally, and like busy with work, and it's like I feel like I don't know where my head's at. It's not in a bad place, it's not in a good place. It's just sort of here, you know. I'm in the moment,
bro. Let me tell you, I'm at work today, and using the software we have to do my job, right? And every time I went to do something, it would freeze, consistently freeze. So it would be like I would type my I do a lot of writing data queries and stuff. So I'd write my query, click, freeze, 5 minutes. I have to sit there and wait
5 minutes.
Not even kidding, dude. I would sit there for 5 minute intervals. I'm like, if anybody walks by, they think I'm not doing anything. Because yeah, there were times where I was like, I can't, I'm going for a walk. And when I get back, it'll be done. And then I have to repeat the process. I was losing it today. And then I started to get like this weird, like, I don't know if I'm just like, I can't take staring at this freezing constantly, but I was just like, I need a nap. I'm like, my brain is gone. So I got an energy drink. I don't do this. All right. I got energy. I don't do this, but I was so tired. Got an energy drink before the show. So I'm a little wired now. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I feel like that Step Brothers moment is like, he's all hopped up. Yeah. So
I'm glad it's working.
Yeah. Keeping me awake. And we have a lot to talk about, so I'm excited for that. Shout out everyone in the chat hanging out with us. See Captain Logan, see Silking It, see some other people. Thank you all for tuning in. Why don't we get through the housekeeping, then we can jump into the show proper. This is Shared Save. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia. If you can't catch us live, post every Sunday on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, please drop us a review. It does help us. If you want to support us even further, get early audio access to all of our content and exclusive bonus content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current supporters. So thank you to Sam Hall, who I just saw in the chat, Alpaca Tom, Rick Davis, Silking It, Dave Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, Marcus O'Neill, Nikolai at Night, Fabulous Brianna, Brandon, Black Wyver, David Burdett, Dinglebomb, and Savoy Prime. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Yes, I can now skip dialogue 1.5 times faster because it's like instant processing, you know?
Yeah. It's like, what's the film? Lucy, where Scarlett Johansson takes the drugs.
Yes.
Which is like unlocking all of her brain capacity. You're about to start like levitating in a minute.
It's was it Bradley Cooper? Was he the Limitless movie? You take that, you take that pill. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
And stuff,
yeah. Sam, why don't we start the show like we always do with games we've been playing the last week? So, what have you had on the docket?
Well, I mean, the main thing that I would want to speak about, Kev, I can't, because I can't speak about what I'm playing primarily.
Oh, okay.
But there are a number of things this week that I've basically done a bit of cleanup after finishing Saros coverage. So I think we must have been talking about it last week, that I hadn't quite finished it yet. I did wrap up Mixtape and platinumed it. I'm glad that game is not controversial in the slightest. I'm glad that it had a nice, easy ride on social media.
It's funny because I talked about it on the Patreon exclusive monthly Q&A that I did. I had a little, 5+ minute rant about how just going on social media over the weekend was kind of a nightmare because there was just so many people talking about Mixtape and in pretty bad faith ways, I would say. I haven't even played the game, so I have no horse in this race. Like, I might hate this game, right? Yeah. But like, you can tell the way some people talk about them. Like, you haven't played the game, you see clips, and you're latching onto a narrative.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. And I guess I'm gonna rage bait some of those people. Not that they'd be in this chat. You're all lovely, but I stand by what I said. I think that Mixtape is great. I think I said in the Discord as well that if it wasn't for Saros, it would probably be my game of the year currently. And that's saying a lot. I loved Requiem. I've loved a number of things that have come out this year. Vampire Crawlers is also high up on. But, the whole, does it hit the nostalgia feel button for you? It's like, well, no, because I didn't live in American suburban childhood. But like I said last week, like the themes that it's touching on, to me, were far more universal than I think a number of people are trying to paint it as. And I, as I always do, engage games in good faith, and I'm the artsy fartsy type. I like the sort of experiential weird games, and this one really spoke to me, and I can't, not in a cliche way, but I can't stop thinking about it, of like when the needle drops happen. And there's a moment near the very end of the game with a particular needle drop that I didn't know, because it wasn't a band that was announced, as far as I'm aware, to be part of the mixtape. And when it hit, it just, like, it got me. I'm not gonna, I shed a small tear, Kev. It was a very, very powerful moment. So I highly recommend it again, as I said last week.
Yeah, it's one of those, like I said, I will, next time I have Game Pass, I will probably just knock it out, knowing how short it is. And I did grow up in the 90s in America, rural America, be it at that. So we'll see how much it connects with me in the nostalgia. Certainly I would probably know some of these songs. I'm being a few years older than you even, but yeah, I see Silken says it's a good game. Didn't top Karen for me, which is one I do recommend you play before the end of the year for our discussion. Yeah, for sure. It's funny, not to bring it up, but I've seen a lot of people engaging in the discourse, and they're acting like reviews need to. You remember a few years ago, and I don't want to try to put people on blast. You remember that forum going around where it's like, "Hey, we've developed an objective review forum." Where they were like, "This is the template for how to review games," and I was like, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Reviews, by their nature, are subjective, and I've seen some people, say, well, there should be a standard that could be applied because how can this be a 10 out of 10 and this be a 7 out of 10, right? And I was like, that's just not how reviews work. Like, it's a 10 out of 10 for this reviewer in this genre for what this game is doing. That doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's a better game than, say, Saros, right?
Of course, yeah.
Just because it might have a higher review score is my hope. Like, because Saros is a completely different genre. So you have to compare, like, a 9 or an 8 in that genre is completely different to a 10 out of 10 in this genre, is how I've always looked at reviews. And I feel like I'm living in crazy land the way people are talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, saying What Remains of Edith Finch doesn't deserve a 10 because Elden Ring is a 10. It's like, what are you talking about? There's just no logical path that I can follow there. And I understand, because if people are engaging in bad faith, there's the whole thing of, well, IGN is this like massive outlet. It's basically like the avenue that people will go to on a mainstream scale to get reviews for games. So I get that there is like an incumbent responsibility. But the responsibility isn't to tell you what you want it to be. And I think that, and I'm not trying to like besmirch anybody, but if you go to an IGN review and you read the review, especially the written review, because like the written reviews typically go into far more detail than the video reviews do. If you read those and you decide to base your entire opinion on solely IGN's review of a game, you probably don't want to be playing games, like, because that's not a metric. Like, it's a factor that can play into a decision. But if it's the entirety of your decision, especially when it's coming primarily from people that say they don't care about what IGN say, but then when IGN say something that they don't like, they care very, very much. It's strange. But anyway, that aside, Mixtape is very strong. And I'm glad that I wrapped it up and got all the trophies very easy, 100% as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. I spoke about it as well, just in that little diatribe. But Vampire Crawlers, I also 100% in platinum this week. Got that out of the way. Also surprisingly simple, especially similar to Vampire Survivors. Like if you know what you're going for, you can sort of bash it out quite quickly. It seems like a grindy kind of game, and in some avenues it is, but on the whole, it was relatively easy to do. I think it took me like 30 hours total to do everything. Bad. And I wasn't like trying to trophy hunt the entire way through. I was just playing. And then for the last 5 hours, maybe I was actively going for cleanup. Yeah, I think it's great. I'd be very interested to see where Ponk will take the vampire, I guess, subgenre next, what the next kind of game is that they make.
I think there's a lot of potential with the IP. I mean, certainly they have two strong opening games, right, in this franchise, if you want to call it the vampire IP. But I would love them to just keep expanding. Like, could we do more than like a rogue like style game, right? Could we expand it into a game that maybe has like more of a story or is like a platform? Like, I want to see them try to mix it. I don't know, a platformer might be a little too close to Castlevania, which they're already heavily inspired by, but like I would like to see them try their hands at things like that.
It's actually just a third person over the shoulder sad dad simulator, but every time you hit an enemy, tons of like brightly colored gems fly out and you're just leveling up every 2 seconds. But yeah, no, I can't wait to see what they do next. I came to Vampire Survivors relatively late, and on paper, neither of these games should appeal to me, but they have both hooked me. So it's sort of, I'm just allowing myself to go with the flow of whatever they do next, because I know that even if at first glance I'm like, yeah, it's more of the same, and I don't know if this is really exactly the kind of games that I love, I will and end up falling in love with it. Cleaned up Resident Evil 4 Requiem, Resident Evil 4 Remake. That's how fried my brain is.
Great.
Yeah, finally. The amount of goddamn playthroughs that you have to do to platinum that game. I mean, I know I saw Brandon in the Discord, what would be a month or two ago, was doing this as well. And I finally wrapped up my final playthrough, which was, I did play it on standard, to be fair, but it was a pistol and knife only, no heal run. And even on the easiest difficulty, that can get a little bit dicey at certain points. So that's out of the way. I don't know what I'm going to do next in terms of Resident Evil, because I've kind of done most of the ones I'm interested in. I don't want to go back to like PS3 and do 5 and 6. So I might just wait for when supposedly the Code Veronica remake comes out. That might be the next one I do. I'm not sure.
I know Nagachaka has been going back to 5, and
that's true.
Yeah, he's been going through all of them with. I think he's been co-oping the ones you can, but yeah, it's Resident Evil, man. People love it.
I do. Another one that I came to very late. I mean, my first proper Resident Evil that I played, outside of dabbling around on the PS1, was 7. That was my re-entry proper gateway into it, and then since then I've obviously done 7, 8, 9 and gone all the way back to 2, 3, 4, and 0.
You could help Taylor through Resident Evil 7. Maybe he could get out of the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard that is a quite difficult part of the game.
Yeah.
So, skill issue, but I'm sure he'll get over it one day. I hear he's still in there.
He probably, I don't know if he's played it since that, but
just put the controller down. He said, that's where my journey ends.
Yeah.
And the other game that I can talk about is a game called Lil Guardsman.
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. It drew my attention because it is in the vein of like a Papers, Please kind of thing, where you're at this checkpoint. This is a fantasy world, this game, as opposed to like a dystopian, very dark thing in Papers, Please. And you're being presented with these eccentric, quirky cast of characters that come up to the booth, and you have to decide whether to approve their entry or deny them. And you have a variety of tools that you can X-ray them, you can spray them with truth serum stuff, you can use a ring to decode any language that you can't understand, or written down stuff that is ineligible or whatever, and you have to make assumptions and guesses. And I like how divergent the story branches seem to be. I did platinum it, so I think I've seen pretty much everything it has to offer. But it's a little too clunky and overstays its welcome for me. I was sort of looking just to scratch that itch, because it did look, in theory, so much like Papers, Please of the gameplay loop, but it didn't get anywhere close, if I'm being honest. So I'm like, it's still good for people that like that kind of thing, but it wasn't really what I was hoping it was going to be.
That's a shame. That's kind of the prevailing sentiment. I remember when it came out that I've heard around the game, is that it doesn't really hit the heights many thought it would.
Yeah. So my prolonged wait continues. I mean, Lucas Pope, he says he's working on another game. I don't know if I believe him, but if it's a Papers, Please 2 or a Return of the Obra Dinn 2, it's not going to be, because it's going to be something weird again. Completely.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm waiting desperately.
Awesome. Silken has a question. Do you have a play date, Sam?
No, I have tried one because one of my friends has one. But I know that he did a number of games for the play date. I think it's something after midnight or something, which is similar to Papers, Please, because you're cranking up the shutter to reveal lots of little aliens and monsters behind it. I did dabble with that, but again, that didn't really speak to me. That's probably because of the form factor as opposed to the game itself. If the game was available on anything but the Playdate, I probably would play it through. But yeah, a little too on the gimmicky side to me, the Playdate. That's the thing that sort of has always warded me off of maybe buying in. Because
that's the one you have to crank.
Yeah, it's got the little
yeah.
Again, very cool, innovative, unique gimmick, but I don't think it's gonna. I mean, it's not got that much support from what I understand. Not that it was ever intended to be a mass market, huge support thing. But I also don't know how much you're actually going to feasibly get out of that as a gimmick before it gets a little bit old. So.
All right. Sorry, I was answering some people in the chat. So I'll jump into what I've been playing. I'll start with the game I've put the least amount of time into, and that's Directive 8020. This is the next game in the Dark Pictures anthology, if you want to call it that. I've only played the first chapter. The first chapter is very much setting up the game, world building, introducing you to what's going on. Let me tell you, Tao Zeddy getting a lot of shout outs in the year 2026.
Yeah.
We're going there again, everyone. All right. If you've seen Project Hail Mary, Marathon, I'm sure I know for a fact there's other ones that I'm forgetting, but this must be the only planet that people have ever heard of, not in our solar system or something, because we're always going there. So set up, and this is, no spoilers, but we're on our return trip from there. Where again, our sun is dying, so we have a voyage. There's people asleep in pods, and you start out as it seems to be a maintenance worker, and you got to investigate a sudden warning, and that's all I will say. Yeah, so it sets up. They've added what I will say, more gameplay elements. I've done one or two choices so far. I think one is really like the biggest, like there's only really one big one in, I think, the opening chapter, but they've added like you have a scanner, so you like hit the I think it was like the square button, and it kind of does that the zoom out where it lights things up, and you'll have to find like wires, like, okay, I need to open that door, I have to follow this glowing wire over here. They've also added stealth to this one.
I've heard that,
which is very interesting. Not something I would have expected from Supermassive. So you do have your first stealth encounter in chapter 1, where you have to hide behind boxes, and then like the person's like looking for you, and you have to like sneak by them and go around. And it wasn't bad. It was very basic, very simple, I will say. I forgot there's a button you can click to show like where you're supposed to go, and for some reason I totally forgot. So I was like, where am I going? I'm just like walking, and at one point I was like walking right into the person because they had like turned a corner. I didn't know where they was, like, oh crap. So I'm interested in the story. The setup has been good, I think. So I really want to play more. I like the Dark Pictures games, but this does feel very, so far, like it's another installment with a few more gameplay mechanics. I think it looks visually very beautiful, especially when you see like outer space and the stars and everything. So I'm excited to play more.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to hearing what you think about whether it sticks the landing story-wise or not. But that is the one thing that I'd heard. I don't know how prevalent it is, but I have heard that there was a fair amount of stealth. So I'll be interested to see how much of the playtime is dedicated to stealthing around.
Yeah, I hope it's like I don't mind like even once per chapter,
Sure.
right? Like that feels fine to me. I hope they don't overdo this go follow the wire thing though, because that's a bit much. But the next game I will talk about is a game that I started, and then I got some review codes, which I'll get to one of those. But I have gone back and I've now finished it, and that is Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Tides. So not game of the year. However, I don't really agree with the review scores. I don't know if the review scores are very like, hey, I'm a Yakuza fan and I played like the original Yakuza 3 and I don't like the changes they made. As someone that never played Yakuza 3, I went into this game and I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. Like, so they take some of the mechanics from like the later, like Infinite Wealth. Even they have like the same friend system. Like Kiryu gets a cell phone, he gets to friend people that he meets on the street, and like if you friend enough people, you get rewards. It's like a silly little thing just to do while you're running around Kamurocho and Okinawa. And then they have like bounties. They're called Reapers. They're supposed to be more powerful enemies. And this is the kind of stuff I like. Like, okay, just go here, beat them up, you get a bunch of money. Like, okay, I'm engaged in that. And then they have something called, and I forget. It's basically you join a biker gang of like of women. Like you're the leader. Like yeah. It's called like Dragon Baddies or something.
Nice.
Yeah. And what you do is you all get motorcycles and then you perform raids on other gangs. So like you'll have squads of people that you recruit, and then you all get to ride your motorcycles into these warehouses and beat down the other gangs. And then you have one big showdown at the end. And then you take some people from the other gang, they join you, and you try to become the best gang in town. And let me tell you, I was addicted to this. I was sitting here, I'm like, I don't know why, but I sat down to play and I was like, I'm going to progress the story. And then like 2.5 hours later, all I had done was biker gang stuff. I was like, I didn't get any farther in the story. I'm the best gang in town now though. So that's pretty neat.
Every time anybody says anything about Yakuza, it's like I just don't believe that this stuff is in the game. It's like what do you mean?
No, yeah, that's in the game. Okay. And you fight like weird other gangs too. Like some of them are like musicians, so they got like guitars. Like I felt like a straight out of Death Stranding. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I did hear they reduced the number of sub stories from like 140 to like 30 something. So maybe people are upset about that. I thought the story was really engaging. They introduced a new antagonist called Mine, who he is the expansion. You can play as him in the Dark Ties, which is basically like 3 chapters. It basically shows you like how he got to where he got throughout the story, which I found a little like you just explained it to me. Like I just played the game and you just told me all this, but now I get to like play it. So a little redundant there if you ask me. But I really liked him. He basically aura farms the whole game, and he's pretty cool guy. I do know they changed the ending to Yakuza 3. This is also something people are upset about, and I went and watched the original one. And I was like, I get it. I understand. Like I get why they're mad, but it seems to be setting up like a different timeline or trying to retcon things that maybe they'll bring into like a Dragon 9. So overall, I'm really happy with Yakuza Kiwami 3. Like I don't know what people expected. I thought it was a really good time. I'm happy I played it.
So what you're saying is, Kev, is that you can retroactively go onto OpenCritic and give it like a 100 out of 100.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, just like to make up for it's like when the reviews came out, it's gained a bit of interest since then, right? So what would have been like, you know, let's say a 90, you're going to give it an 100 now because it's accrued a bit of interest.
Listen, I have it in a few fantasy leagues, so if I could change the score, I would, but I can't. Okay. Silken says, Kevin, don't tell him about the pervert Pokemon Snap mini game in Infinite Wealth. Have you heard about this in Infinite Wealth? So
every single word of that I hated.
You ride a trolley around Hawaii, and these buff men in their underwear are like hiding, and you have to like Pokemon Snap them while they're in like weird little poses or jumping down. And the more you snap, it's called Sicko Snap, if I remember correctly. The more you snap, the better rewards you get.
What do you do with these photos, Kev?
Nothing. You just turn them in for rewards.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Do these people know they're being photographed?
Yes. They're all in. They're intentionally like catch me. Yeah.
Yeah. You know. I've said I'm going to play Yakuza one of these days.
Yeah.
I'm reconsidering that now.
There's also a recurring side quest where you find man babies. So you bust in a door and it's a group of men in diapers and they act like babies.
Okay, well now I'm back in.
Occasionally you have to fight them. So you will be like beating up giant babies. Yakuza is a weird game.
The roller coaster you just took me on, can't say I've ever felt anything like it.
Yeah. Well, everyone, that's Yakuza Kiwami 3. Let me get to my last game that I will talk about, and I can talk about it now. I didn't think I was going to be able to, but that's because the embargo time they gave me was for Australia. So the embargo has actually lifted, and that is on Dark Light Survivor. So this is a survivor-like game. Think Vampire Survivors and the spawn of clones that has had, right? This one has a very unique twist on it, and that is you can switch between a top-down and a third-person over-the-shoulder view at any time with the switch of a button. So it's in early access out today. I think it's like $13 or something. So very cheap early access because they're still working on it. But I will say I've put a couple hours into it, right? The game is really fun. I'm very positive overall. It's not perfect, but what I had access to was one class because there's 3 different classes available. So I don't know what the other 2 classes or even if they're in the game yet. Maybe you have to unlock them. There's 3 maps you can play on. I have yet to unlock the other ones because you have to be good at the game, and I'm not good at the game. So I played the same map. Essentially, you drop in on you get brought in on a train, and you have to fight hordes of demons coming at you. And there's different kinds. There's small demons, there's exploding demons, there's giant demons that will take tons and tons of hits to take down. So I like to think that the best way to play this game is to start in the third person over the shoulder kind of hell divers. While there's not many enemies, you can look on your map, you're able to spin, like do headshots, because they really, like when you're in that mode, headshots are critical. They want you to kind of play like a third person shooter.
Right.
It's the same formula. You absorb the gems from the people you kill, then you get upgrades. And there's not an overwhelming amount of upgrades in the game right now. Clearly they still need to add more, but I did find some of my favorites. There's ones that put like saw blades around you, just constantly spinning. There's one that has drones come in and kind of do like a bomb run through enemies. And you can upgrade all these so they do act more frequently and more often. And there's also ones that have elemental effects. Like every time I run, I leave a trail of fire, or my dash suddenly becomes like a lightning teleport. Things like that you can really mix and match. And they kind of want you to, at least this was my impression, stick to one elemental for your run, because they'll give you, like once you choose fire, they're going to start giving you more and more things like, hey, improve your duration of fire, improve fire damage. Like they're going to try to lead you down that path. So once you have built up enough XP and the hordes start coming, that's when I think you switch to the isometric view, because if you're in the third person view, you can't see behind you that well. Like you're not going to have time to manage the hordes of enemies. And in this top down view, it kind of, I don't want to say it's not a twin stick shooter, but it kind of acts like that, where you have to like constantly have your hand on both sticks and moving. It's not an auto battler either. You're the one that's going to have to be firing the weapon constantly. Right. And there's a whole bunch of different weapons. So you start with a pistol, you can hold a few, you can get rifles, machine guns, and you can get melee weapons. That's another big change. So you can get like swords, hammers. So if the enemies start closing in on you, you can start swinging and taking them down up close. It's just a really fun, addicting gameplay loop. I have yet to reach the boss. I've had a few long runs, like I want to say 30 minutes, and I didn't get to the boss. And it's like, I feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point, because I got to a point in the game where they were summoning multiple of these, the tarmac from Gears of War, those giant things like the missile. Basically, those are in the game. They summon those onto the battlefield, and you got to try to take down those. Those are bullet sponges. They can shoot giant missiles at you. Becomes very difficult. So yeah, I have yet to like progress and see like what the boss is, because there is a boss for each level that you can beat. But once you're dead and your run's over, you get rewarded based on how well you do with coins and like emblems and these modifiers. So you go back to like this home base and you can do permanent upgrades. So you have a whole skill tree. It's like improve health by 5%, improve it by 100, add like a special ability to throw daggers, just a whole list of skills you can upgrade with coins. And then you also have, I think the runes you earn, which gives you like augments for your run. So if you want to start with more XP gain, you can put that one in. If you want to focus on melee damage, you can put something like that in. Lightning damage, improve your reloads, like stuff like that. You can augment your runs. So I just found myself like one more time. It has that Vampire Survivors addicting quality of like, okay, I'm going back, upgrading, then I'm coming back in, see what I can do. It's early access. It doesn't run poorly, but it has a few technical issues. Like I got stuck inside of one of the environment, like a car that's scattered, like an abandoned car. An enemy hit me into it. I got stuck in there, and then I couldn't move, and they just murdered me. That's a little frustrating, but I look past that knowing the state of the game it's in, right? They're going to work those kinks out. I'm not going to give you a review score or anything like that. I'm not even going to say recommend, because I don't think that's fair on an early access game. Like there's so much that this can evolve into, but I will say I had fun with it. And if you like Survivors likes, maybe look the way of this one.
Okay. Well, I'm a little burnt out after wrapping up Crawlers, but it is something that we both sort of had a bit of an eye on. I can't remember where we saw it initially, but
I know Jam Pack Sam turned me on to this.
interesting. That might have been where I tangentially picked that up, and then looked it up after the fact. That sounds right, actually, now that that's ringing a bell. A question, though.
Yep.
Well, a couple of questions, actually. I assume you have unlimited ammo in your weapons.
Certain weapons you do. So your starting weapons and like variants of your, usually the pistol and like machine gun, like they kind of have tiers of weapons. So they'll have like uncommon, rares, legendary, super weapons. So depending on what tier weapon you get, it'll have a certain ammo capability. Around the map, you'll be able to buy new weapons and find new weapons. So some are in chests, some are at totems. You can go and buy, like, it'll give you 3 options, whatever one you can afford it or whatever one you want. Super weapons are very limited ammo. One of the super weapons I consistently went to was this basically laser beam, where I would just like spin in a circle, have a constant beam going and like melt everyone. That was very, very awesome. But that only has like 200 whatever bullets you want to call it before it runs out.
Okay. And because they're in the vein of a Vampire Survivors, is there any objectives other than just surviving as long as you can? Because you talked about like going on a long run and not making it to a boss.
As far as I can tell, the objective is to get to the boss and beat the boss in that area. But scattered throughout at some of the totems are kind of like challenges you can do that will give you certain power-ups or like buffs for that run. They're very difficult. Like some are kill a certain number of enemies within a time limit before the curse takes you. And like you try, I tried a few of those and I didn't succeed at all of them. There's also things that I don't want to say it's Returnal-esque, but there are those kind of, take a negative effect to get kind of like a little positives in another direction, right? Sure. They have those that you can also put on your character.
Okay. I mean, at least it's presenting a few, obviously with a perspective shift, but seems like it's also presenting on top of that a few unique ideas that I haven't seen elsewhere. So hopefully, I think it'll be something that I might even wait for like a full release to jump into when there's presumably even more content and stuff. But I'm glad that you're enjoying it thus far.
Yeah, I know. I think they said early access is planned for a good, like maybe 2 years, if I remember correctly. Okay. So it's going to be a while before the full release. Obviously, the price will go up if you wait for the full release. Yeah. This is kind of the early access price get in there. But like I said, if you're looking for something that's more interactive, like if you're like, oh, I like Vampire Survivors, I like Helldivers, and the auto battler isn't like, if you want to be more engaged in the combat, this is certainly one to go look at.
Nice.
Oh, and code provided. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I was sent a code by the developers for this, so thank you to them. All right, Sam, do you want to get into the news?
Let's go.
All right, you cool kicking us off?
Sure, why not?
All right, so I'll throw it over to you. We got a PlayStation interview to talk about and some Saros sales estimates, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the interview first, just because like there's some stuff to discuss, but nothing really of like notable substance that we didn't already know. I find it more interesting just the fact that we have an interview with a PlayStation higher up that's not like a GQ or a Wired or a random newspaper. It's an actual gaming outlet that they're speaking to, which is kind of unheard of these days, really, especially for someone, not that Christoph Svensson is like top tier necessarily, but he's high up. So I thought that's interesting in and of itself, that maybe I'm not trying to read too much into it, but there could be a sentiment that maybe they are, with the new leadership, and obviously we're presumably, depending on timelines, getting into the space where they're going to have to start pitching and selling on both us and everybody else on next generation stuff. So maybe they're going to try and be more talkative and more open, go back to the not necessarily bringing back PSX, but being a bit more consumer facing, which I think is needed, because they don't do anything. And I think there's a happy medium that could be struck. But there's a few things of interest. So he said a lot of things. He said that PlayStation would be a plastic box without content. It's like, well, yeah, of course. But in terms of adding on to that, he spoke about the 30% commission fee that is applied to developers for the PlayStation Store.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of controversy because they're facing the lawsuit about monopolizing the market and all these things, right? And potentially refunding consumers. But I'm obviously referencing the game business interview here. It says the topic of Sony's 30% commission fee on games sold via PlayStation Store was raised. It was revealed that they have 10,000 developers and publishers working with the company today, with 5 internal teams specifically focused on assisting them with dev kits, best practice sharing, PR, marketing, and funding. So Sony states that maintaining this, but meaning those teams and the amount of developers and publishers they have, is a big investment, which is one of the reasons for charging this 30% fee. The interview adds that attracting and supporting game developers on PS5 is costly. I don't think I clarified. Christian Svensson is the VP of second and third party content at PlayStation. So he is basically in charge of getting the deals for second and third party content and making sure that everything is progressing smoothly. So he said that if you look at PlayStation's history from the beginning, we've been a very third party focused ecosystem. And he that was essentially the summation of his quotes, right? And talking about it being a plastic box without content. I wonder, just on the face value, how you take that, because I think that there is a read of it that is seen a bit more in the arrogant direction of the sort of monopolizing, we're in charge, we're in the lead, we can do whatever we want. But then, in the same way of you look at someone like Asher Sharma and Xbox and sort of becoming very real, and pragmatic about things. I think that there is a read of this as well, where you could say, like, yeah, maybe they are sort of taking the piss a little bit in some areas because they're the market leader, but it doesn't change the fact that a number of these things running this infrastructure is very expensive, and they're a business at the end of the day. So these are realities. I don't know. Where do you land?
It's interesting because my initial reaction isn't negative or positive one way or the other hearing it. I can see the take that they're arrogant, that they know, hey, you need us basically.
But you'll
right?
pay the fee, right?
Yeah. So you'll pay the fee. I can also see the take that, I don't know how best to phrase this, is that we are giving you a platform that you can't get on your own. So we're kind of entitled to and that might be along the same lines. Or I don't know if that's arrogant, but it is kind of like, if PlayStation was to say, if publishers were to say, we're not paying the 30% fee, right? Their options are then Xbox, which is third place, Switch, which might limit their graphical capability implementation, like technology implementations they want to, even though the Switch 2 is much more powerful, or sticking to PC, where certain publishers, I know Capcom is doing very well on PC, that might not ultimately kill them, and you have a better split over on PC, but they don't have a way to just get you the games without giving up some sort of fee. Like, that is just the market reality that we have come to expect to live in. I think it was different. Like, if Sega was still in the console business, right? Back in the day, they had more competition, arguably. I don't know. It's a very interesting quote, but I don't know if it means ultimately that much. I kind of just read it as, we know how important we are.
Yeah. I think it's not condoning it in the slightest, because I think that they could and should probably be more lenient on developers, because them easing up on that fee, I don't think would diminish their lead in the market, right? I think that's just sort of baked in at this point in the console space anyway. So, they probably should ease up on it, preferably, but it's also just an unfortunate reality that, like we both said, that they are in the position where they don't really have to. And if it reaches a point, which some people might hope for, that Sony do need to relent on that in some fashion, then that will presumably be a net positive for everyone. And I would hope that Sony isn't arrogant and fights it, because then that means that they start losing content, and then that means, it's precipitous then. So is what it is, but not necessarily happy about it.
It reminds me of Epic saying, "Hey, we're gonna give developers really good." I think they take like 12% or something, like a really good cut, but still nobody buys games on Epic. So it's ultimately, how much is it really worth to be on the Epic Game Store? I think Xbox even cut theirs. I think for their PC storefront, at least, maybe Xbox overall. Certainly, some games get different. I remember Call of Duty got a better split than most games, like that had an individual deal. So it really, until there is a diminish in PlayStation's market lead, they have no reason to give them a better split.
Yeah. Another little tidbit that's interesting, I guess, not really necessarily conversation worthy, but he did comment that Sony this generation, PS5 generation, have either wholly or at least partially funded over 120 game projects. He spoke about how the approach in terms of these fundings range from indie games to major AAA partners. He emphasized in the interview that indies are still internally valued equally, and are seen as, quote, an amazing complement to the breadth and depth that needs to exist on our platform, end quote. So he said that they funded either wholly or partially more than 120 projects. He did clarify, though, interestingly, that this figure does not include any of their hero projects.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Because that was going to be my main talking point.
Yeah. So that because that would have been my assumption, that those are baked in and probably make not necessarily a majority, but a good portion of that 120. But apparently not. It doesn't include any of them. So I don't know whether that is specifically set aside in a different facet revenue. I don't know why they aren't just baked in, or why he didn't bump the number in the conversation, why he didn't say, including hero projects, we have this many funded. I don't know, but yeah, 120. It seems pretty decent.
High to me. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what are even close. I'm never gonna get 120, but even a dozen. I don't know if I could name a dozen that PlayStation. If Stellar Blade, right? They had a hand in Helldivers, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So, but 120. That's without the hero projects. That seems incredibly high to me, especially because I was gonna say the hero projects. I have a few of them wish listed, but there have been numerous ones that have come out and just absolutely no marketing. PlayStation doesn't even mention it, and it seems very strange for you invested in these teams. You think you would want the games to succeed, instead of there's a real chance that a lot of the hero project games have sold hundreds of copies.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a number of, obviously, by its nature, the hero projects are typically more scoped for specific regions. But I do wonder, they certainly haven't, if the intention was for them to permeate out into regions outside of where the hero project originated, then I don't know if that's been overly successful out of a few rare cases. But maybe those games have had more of a footprint, maybe some marketing just within those regions of the world. I don't know. But yeah, I guess it also depends on, if we're going to be cynical or skeptical, I guess. Depends on how liberally they mean partially funded. Like
the Callisto protocol, where they had like QA people over there working on it, right?
Sure. And does partially funded mean just that they paid for a marketing deal rather than funding the actual development of the game? Does it mean that they bought exclusivity? Like, we obviously are not going to know the minutia for all of the games that they've done those sort of things for, and whether that counts towards this total. It probably does, if we're being frank. But
PS Plus deals, I imagine, are included in there. Right? Things like Sword of the Sea.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Still, like, I think it's commendable. I would be interested to see what Xbox's equivalent is, and Nintendo's for that matter. Like, just everybody across the board, how much they are outside of their own internal teams. How much are they spreading the field? Obviously, Xbox has done a lot of Game Pass deals and day ones and stuff. So hopefully that number is equivalent, if not exceeding this. That would be really cool to see. But I also like the fact that in this, he mentions that there is a set of funds set aside in this investment that will perpetually be invested as an indie fund. And they mentioned, I think, that they are going to persist with the idea of 5 to 6 day one indie titles for PlayStation Plus each year.
Great.
That is a feasible, sustainable thing for them, and they like doing that. And if it gets us things like Sword of the Sea, I think that those are really good sort of nabs to scoop up. So
everything you're saying, fantastic. I commend, if it's all accurate, and I have no reason to say it's not accurate, right? Love it. Love bigger platform holders, especially Xbox, PlayStation, helping independent developers. And I know PlayStation, you mentioned that fund they set aside. That sounds like the pub fund they used to have back in the day. Yes. Yeah. That, like, I think Drinkbox used that for like Guacamelee, right? Like, we give you the money, you pay us back, and then we're good. Like, everything else after that is yours. My only concern, all right, and so can it kind of touch on this. If you are really investing in those indie games, can you kind of make a bigger deal of it? Can we not get a 15-minute warning that says, hey, we're going to highlight 5 indie games coming to PlayStation over the course of the next year, and then they drop them one by one every 10 minutes and nobody can, like, put them in your PlayStation State of Play. Like, can we get better visibility on some of these things? I will say, like, I think Xbox does a much better job for the indie promotion. Like, I eat at Xbox showcases, even partner showcases over at Nintendo. Like, I very much still, like, this generation especially, Xbox has a better indie portfolio, and whether that's true or not, that's the perception I have because of the marketing.
Yeah, but then, Kev, everybody lambasts and jokes and laughs and points at State of Play, saying this, where's all the first party?
I don't care. I don't care about those. I don't care about those idiots.
Neither do I. But but yeah, like, I think I agree that there's always room to improve, right? And I think that, as much as I personally think that in the example of Xbox having maybe too many showcases at this point throughout the year, I do think that PlayStation should step it up. Whether there was like a dedicated indie State of Play thing, I would love to see maybe something like that, at least test it out. But who knows what they're going to do. Last thing really from the interview, he mentioned that, like, Korean studios and Chinese studios are moving faster than Western studios.
Yeah.
That's a given, right? Like, I think that he doesn't necessarily outright say it that they want to learn from those studios. I think he just said that it's impressive to see the scale and pace that they work at. So you can maybe infer that they're going to try and emulate, to varying degrees, that or see how that works. I in some ways I would like to see them try and replicate some of the stuff that we're seeing out of Asian markets, but at the same time, take it for what it is. I like the Western stuff that we're getting, or a fair amount of the Western stuff that we're getting, even if it is taking much longer than it should. So there's that. But the main thing, Kev, and I just wanted to round out this section with this. I don't want to be cynical, right? Because I try not to be, but I find myself being cynical more often than not. He says, the PlayStation executive says, that the gaming industry is currently making decisions that will lead to a better future. So he said, I'm in an incredibly privileged position in the industry to have amazing visibility into what games will be for the next 3, 4, 5 years, as we're aware of most of our partners' roadmaps. I literally cannot explain to you. Like last year was an amazing year for games. This year, meaning 2026, will be an even better year for games, and next year will be an even better year for games. So the trajectory of content is unbelievably positive, and we as an industry should be super optimistic about where we're going to go in spite of the headlines. So he continues on, but that's really the crux that I wanted to touch on, because I want in my heart to believe him, but there is that part of me niggling away in the back of my brain going, I think I said this in the Discord as well. Are you really going to say anything else? Like, what is the alternative of what you're going to say?
The outlook looks pretty bleak.
It's all going to crash and burn, I'm afraid. So I don't know. Like
yeah, I mean, I'm going to ultimately, I kind of feel the same way, that like, for all the issues that we are having with price increases, which we'll get to one, right? And is GTA 6 going to cost $115 or some nonsense that I'm seeing, right? I ultimately do think that like each year we are getting amazing games, even if they're not all for me. The industry does seem to be in a great place for high quality games. Sure, some of them take forever to get here, but once they do, we are getting a bar that I don't know if we've had like this consistent stretch for this long a period of time, because I feel like since 2022, right, we're talking about like, oh, this is one of the best years in games, right? And then like every year we keep saying that over and over again. So I am personally like, even taking out all the negative stuff, like, oh my God, the AI boom, and being concerned like what that's going to do to the gaming industry and this art form, right? Like I personally think there is a lot of room for positivity, and expectation should be high that games are going to continue to deliver at a very high bar.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm in exactly the same position. I also, dangerously optimistic, some might say. As much as all the layoffs that have happened over the past couple of years, touch wood, I'm not trying to jinx anything. It does seem like that has settled more than it was over the past couple of years, because it was like and I know that we're seeing lots of like games being taken offline and teams struggling, and there are still plenty of layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem quite as prevalent, because it was just sort of precipitous for a few years there, where it was like every single week it was like a massive studio is laying off 50% of its people, and 2 games have been cancelled that they were working on. It didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether there's just been a change in the news cycle where some of that stuff gets buried more, or it is actually stopping. But I would hope that even regardless of which one of those is true, logically we have to reach a point where it stabilizes, because if you just keep laying people off, then you aren't going to have the product to make the money that you need to make. So even with AI, I think that there is a bar, and I hope that we're basically at that bar where there doesn't need to be any more people lost en masse anyway.
Yeah, there's going to be in isolated incidents, hopefully. And like I know Mercury Steam, right? They just laid off some staff members, right? And I worry for I worry for like Supermassive, where I don't think like Directive 8020 is really selling all that well right now, unfortunately. So I do worry for studios like that, who put out game after game and maybe don't see the return that myself and others think they deserve. But it's the industry right now.
Yeah, and that comes with like talking about how many great games there are. The byproduct of that, in terms of flooding the market with great product, is that more product will be sidelined, right? That's just sort of how it goes. And that's not great, and it's unfortunate that there will be casualties as a result of that. But it does mean that as more of our time is preoccupied, whether it is by the Fortnites and Robloxes of the world, or it is the actual good games that are coming out far more often, it's like the amount of games we're getting, there are going to be those things that fall by the wayside, as opposed to back in 2008, where there were like maybe 3 or 4 big games a year. There's one every 2 minutes nowadays, which is great as people who love playing games, but it does mean that there are going to be some people who fail to reach the levels that they need to.
Yeah, y'all, gas is $90 a gallon. All right, paying for video games is tough.
Yeah. And I don't lament anybody who is struggling to sort of, balance that checkbook in their brains of seeing all these things that they would love to experience. Because, obviously people should prioritize things that actually help them live first, rather than entertainment and this sort of luxury hobby that we have. But even saying that, it's like,
did you see that recent study where it said, it might have been an IGN study that they did with like a partner. It said like 62% of gamers don't buy games at full price these days. And I was like, I get it. Makes complete sense to me. Like, waiting for a sale, especially for a lot of these publishers, it just makes more sense. Like, you get a better product for cheaper.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate as well, because like talking about the increased influx of great games, couple that of people like not being able to experience them, and me wanting them to experience them, to enjoy them, but also knowing that again, not only with prices going up being a stress, but everything else going on in the world is a stress. I know, because personally, we both have use games as an outlet to relax and to distract ourselves. And when the financial realities are prohibiting that from happening, it's like that just makes it 10 times worse. So I hope that he is correct. I think that the quality of games will continue to improve. I think that is just naturally going to occur, both in the AAA and indie space. But I hope that the foundations underneath those great games stabilize in terms of pricing for consumers and job security for developers. Speaking of job security for developers,
segue.
We have sales estimates for Saros. So Reese Elliott, who is the head of market analysis at Alinea Analytics, posted on Twitter about general predictions and estimations on what Saros has sold. So he says there is an estimate that Saros has sold a bit over 300,000 copies in the 2 weeks since it's been out, almost a third of which were pre-orders. And the game has generated, again, a bit over $22 million in revenue. So according to Alinea, based on these estimations, it is lagging behind Returnal. But Reese did clarify in further conversations and tweets and whatnot that there are now 11 times the amount of PlayStation 5s in the world compared to when Returnal came out. And there are, as we were just talking about, far more games that are taking up airtime. And he also mentions that Saros, people that loved it and were playing it a lot, but it did come out in the swath of Crimson Desert and Requiem and Pragmata and Hades 2 on console and these things. So it did face some competition even as an exclusive, and it being exclusive means that its audience is limited and all these things. Obviously I am an evangelist for Saros and Housemarque in general. I desperately want to believe that these estimations are on the lower end. But it simultaneously wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they are roughly correct. Now, before I pass over to you, I would clarify that Saros, comparative to other first-party titles, cost far less to make. So, them saying it's generated $22 million in revenue, reporting, and again, estimations from various people, not only Alinea, but other outlets, has said that the budget for Saros is somewhere in the $70 to $75 million range. That's obviously because they're based in Finland. So it's so that's far cheaper than American labor. If Housemarque was an American studio, I think we'd be in real trouble. And we may still be in trouble. But I would hope that in 2 weeks, it's made a third of the budget. Returnal had a very long tail. Now, granted, a number of those sales did come from a PC release, which apparently isn't happening for Saros. But hopefully, it can break even and break into the profit. I would hope that the good word of mouth, even with all of the controversy nonsense. I don't know. Maybe am I on cope? Tell me.
So I have quite a few thoughts. I do think a lot of the asterisks that Reese puts on this estimate, right, where he does talk about there being so many more PlayStation 5s out now, also releasing with a swath of games. Yes, I would have expected it to do better, to be honest, just because of the install base size. I understand it's releasing amongst other games, but like it's one of the highest rated games of the year. It's, critically acclaimed, beautiful. I go back to Returnal, and I think, did the people that pick up Returnal think it was too difficult? And now that base is put off by picking up Saros. Sure. And then I think, well, Returnal didn't even sell that well. I think it was less than 2 million. I know it hit over 1, but I don't know if we ever got a 2 million mark. Maybe with the PC release, but even then, I don't know if it even hit 2 million. So that was back when people were hungry for exclusives on the PS5. So I kind of understand picking up Returnal, like, hey, this is a first party Sony game on a brand new machine that's been out 6 months. Like I'm going to pick up what I can. That isn't the case now when we have so many of those other games. Like you don't have to pick up a PlayStation first party if you don't want to, especially with all those other games around it. I just worry for it, man. I think it coming out at $70 was probably a mistake. I think it's probably too high for and I know it has a Sony PlayStation Studios logo on it, right? Like it has to be a premium experience. But I do think that this game might have sold better at like a $50 price point, and maybe that isn't what they want. They want to value their products, right? But I just can't help but feel that they have kind of set Saros up for failure. And I look back at I think it's Circana, right? Circana puts out those, or maybe it's the PlayStation monthly charts. I forget which one. But Returnal and Saros both came out on the same day, years apart, April 30th or whatever, right? Returnal was much higher with 1 day worth of sales in the chart ranking than Saros was, which automatically made me think, well, Saros is selling softer than Returnal. Now we have these estimates. Maybe when it gets a price decrease, people are waiting for a sale, and you can recoup some of that, and maybe the sales ultimately end up where they should be. But right now, I would be worried about the future of, I don't want to say the future of Housemarque, but like how this impacts them, because if they don't hit whatever their sales target is, like PlayStation's kind of been on a roll with cutting people. So I'm worried for them. I can't lie.
Yeah, again, maybe dangerous optimism in me feels that because Housemarque is such a, cheap, in air quotes, studio to run, it's a small team, and I think that having a base, a foothold for talent in Finland is very valuable. You think of the talent there, whether it's Remedy or, I think that Housemarque aren't necessarily at risk of shuttering. I could see layoffs if things don't hit where they need to. But then, again, this isn't necessarily how things work, but in my brain, maybe because I'm trying to half copium, I do think that with PS5 doing, again, in air quotes, as well as it is, and the bolster of a year that they're going to have with Wolverine and GTA 6 and the marketing, maybe there's something there where they can, in essence, if it doesn't break even and breach into profit a little bit, subsidize the losses, so that they can, as they themselves have said, Nishino and Holst, of refocusing on internal, wholly Sony-owned IP. Like it is a new IP, which is probably also something that hurt the sales. I don't know whether. An interesting alternate reality is, what if this game was called Returnal 2? What would that have done?
It probably would have sold better, to be honest. I don't think Saros is a good name.
I mean, knowing the story.
I think your mic got unplugged.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're coming through something else now.
Oh, hang on. Let's see.
I'll take over chatting while you fix that, right? So I see Nissa in the chat saying no PC port. I do wonder, and we've heard from Jason Schreier that like PC ports for PlayStation first party is done, right? I do wonder if Saros fails to garner an audience and really up the figures where they currently stand, do they kind of retract on that and say, well, this one needs it. We need to recoup something from this. I don't know. It's a possibility, but I don't. To answer your subsidized question, I personally don't think they'll look at it that way. I think sure. They'll be like, hey, this wasn't a hit, guys. And then my question from there goes, well, where does Housemarque go? They make very arcade-like games. If the games that they're trying to make that have it's a AAA budget, right? If we want to get technical, but a larger budget, they've added more story elements into it. If those aren't hitting with their arcade elements, what kind of game do they make next? Because they can't just make this is the third one in our Returnal-esque kind of gameplay style, right? Like they can't just do that.
Yeah. Am I back? Is the microphone working?
Yes, you're
excellent.
back.
Fantastic. Not sure what happened there. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know, and I'm scared. But maybe in a worst case scenario where they aren't shuttered, maybe they are, instead of creating their own IP, are handed an IP from another first party team, and do something with that, again, in terms of translating from the sort of arcadey bullet helly stuff, does any of that remain, or do they switch to a different genre entirely? I don't know. I don't even know what that IP would be that they would get handed, but maybe there is something in the back catalog that they aren't doing anything with.
Killzone.
I mean, like maybe if it, what does a modern Housemarque game look like that isn't a bullet hell? I imagine they'd want to go with something a little bit more zany rather than
probably
sort of gritty and grounded, right? That's the vibe I get. But if it's hey, you talking about the potential of rescinding on the whole idea of no PC ports, I'm fine with whatever that ensures that Housemarque sticks around. Like if that's what they have to do, then do that. I couldn't care less if it's a U-turn 180 embarrassing look, if it means that Housemarque survives. And I said this in the Discord, right? Like if Housemarque shutters and then people, obviously I was speaking to our community, but I just mean generally.
Yeah.
If people then get mad that Sony are like risk averse and they're just doing the bog standard IP that you see 75,000 times from them, like you really don't have a leg to stand on in that argument. And I'm not trying to pocket watch people and say like you have to buy all of these games at $70. But there is, again, the unfortunate reality that if the games aren't supported, then there are consequences and trickle down effects that you might not be super happy with. So my general statement, I guess, to round that out would be that if it is within your means, when Saros does go on sale, pick it up if you're interested.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we'll see. I'm rooting for them. Obviously, I don't want games to fail. I don't want studios to shut down.
No, and again, like say take niche. Like I agree certainly, but like if you're interested in those kind of games, Housemarque is the best at doing it. Like their gameplay, their design is unrivaled in the space. So if you're looking for something of that ilk, you aren't going to get better than Housemarque.
Well said. All right, let's move on to I have two topics I'm bringing to the table. We're going to start with this one because I think it might be the shorter discussion, although neither of mine are huge. So Nintendo, I got some Nintendo news. They have announced that starting September 1st, 2026, they are raising the price of Nintendo Switch 2 by $50 in the US, meaning, and maybe it's worldwide. I actually didn't look for it's worldwide. It's definitely in the US, meaning that after that date, the console will retail for $500. Nintendo has apologized for the price increase, which they say is due to current market conditions, such as the ongoing war in Iran, and also state that the price increase does not cover all of the costs, but hopes its upcoming game slate will help overcome this barrier. Nintendo is also offering it's basically a bundle. Create your own bundle for $500 right now, so you can get the console and a game for the new cost ahead of the price increase. So if you are interested, maybe go check that out. Sam, are you at all surprised Nintendo has raised the price of Switch 2?
How could they betray me? I was this close to getting a Switch 2, and now not going to happen. No, I mean, like it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And I do believe that it is in most other markets as well. I don't follow Nintendo news too much, but I think from what I've read that it is outside of the US as well, which would make sense. I'm surprised. I guess surprised might be the wrong word, that it took this long. But maybe, I've seen that the Switch 2 isn't selling as great as obviously the Switch 1, but as some predictions for the Switch 2 were. Maybe they were too optimistic, I don't know. So maybe they were trying to hold off as much as they could for that to try and bolster things. But then if they're talking about upcoming game slate, not to throw shade, I don't really know what they're talking about because, I mean, you know, like the Fire Emblem, sure,
Yeah.
and
Ocarina of Time remake.
I mean, yeah, please do for my fantasy critic's sake. But like, what else is there? Like Star Fox? Oh, everybody loved that.
It's interesting because while Nintendo Switch 2, I believe, is still tracking ahead of the Switch 1, it isn't tracking as well as their estimates, though. I think people expected it to be at a higher mark. I know they had to lower their projections by like 3 million for this fiscal year, I think. So while it is still selling well, it's not selling as well as people expected. And I love my Switch 2. And I think that overall it's been a good, we're not even a year into the console. So, but like, I think it's been a good first year for the software. And, you know, we have things like Mario Kart World, which is still like 14 million units. Donkey Kong's almost at 5. Pocopia is at 4. So like the exclusives on the Switch 2 are selling. They are getting people to go out. And I think that is why you see those 3 games as the bundle, like the pick one of these for our make your own bundle, right? Like they know the drivers that are getting people to pick up the console, and it's not the smaller Star Fox, right? Like it's as much as I want to play Star Fox, that's not going to be a console seller. I hate to break it to people. I'm not worried about the Switch 2. I still think it's going to sell well. I think Nintendo's doing a great job giving you months. You have 4 months notice now to go get a Switch 2 if you're interested. You can get that bundle, which I think is a great deal before they do release things like Fire Emblem is rumored to be September. Ocarina of Time is rumored to be this holiday, and then Mario is rumored to be next year. So like, if you're tuned
they got
in,
Dust Bloods as well, I suppose.
That's what people will be picking up for. Yeah, Dust Bloods. So like they do have games coming. Whether you think those are console sellers or not remains to be seen. But I would find it hard to complain about the first year, 18 months of Switch 2 software from my perspective. That doesn't mean anything because, as we just mentioned, money's tight, spending on entertainment is tight, and now you're telling me, well, $500 is a Switch 2, but I can get a way more powerful console for what, $100 more, right? So I think that does hurt their value proposition. I really don't like them raising the cost because now you're giving people a choice to make. You're now putting them into that conversation when they go into the store and like see all the prices, see the hardware, they're researching specs online. Like, do they get their kid a PlayStation? Do they get them a Switch 2? Which ones were? It's a conversation. And I know Switch 2 probably has a lot of pull just from an IP perspective. But if you don't care about the exclusives, maybe the third-party machine the one that has more third-party support currently is the way you go. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Nintendo, proceed in terms of their marketing, setting their lineup for the coming, 12 months and beyond. Again, like we've just said, there are games that they have that are exclusive to the system, but if they are framing the next 12 months or so as, they've got high hopes for it, it's like I'm not really seeing that yet. Saying like Mario next year, like that makes sense, but I think that until that actually materializes, I could understand a lot of people's hesitation in buying into that idea that their lineup is super strong currently. Not trying to besmirch any games that they do have.
Nissa brings up the portability factor. Certainly a consideration for people going in to buy. I do also think that their move to make digital games cheaper than physical is clearly a play for them to get more revenue without having to cut in like the stores, right? Yep. So they don't have to give them a cut. I think that's an interesting way to offset maybe the price the price the costs, I should say, that they haven't recouped from this price increase. I wonder if they increase the price of Nintendo Switch Online. Like that seems to be another factor. I mean, it's relatively cheap considering what the other subscription services are per month, right? But like it would still not sit well to, no one ever wants their subscription to go up.
Yeah. And like I would have thought that, and they have been, Nintendo to be like the last holdouts, right, on these kind of moves. So I wonder whether like this is it, or like you say, whether there are anything additional that is going to happen either in the short term or over the next few months as things play out and evolve more. I wonder where their brains are at again, and how that then ties into their communications about justifying that increased cost.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Nintendo has up their sleeve. Just show me Fire Emblem though, please, just so I can get that pre-order locked in. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into our last story, and this one is Xbox related. We got all three this show. Xbox might be adding more Game Pass tiers. So first of all, they have kind of quote unquote a new tier already. It's official. The Xbox Game Pass starter tier is here, announced by Discord. Nitro members will now get access to a starter edition of Xbox Game Pass, which includes a library of 50 plus PC and console games and 10 hours of cloud gaming at no extra cost. Xbox Game Pass members will also receive Discord Nitro benefits, including 250 Discord orbs each month, 1.2 times extra orbs when completing quests, and automatically applied Discord shop discounts. However, Xbox might not be done with additional tiers. Windows Central reports more tiers have been discovered via the Xbox Insider build. The first is called Project Saluki, which appears to be an Xbox Game Pass tier specifically for the Chinese market, as it will be specifically tailored to their unique regulatory environment. The second, codenamed Positron, is much more interesting. This appears to be some sort of disc to digital entitlement program. So we can touch on the Game Pass starter tier if you want. I know we talked about it when it was leaked, but then I want to go into these other leaked tiers and get your thoughts. So let's starter tier. I know we talked about it already. I guess it's interesting. Like you don't get online. You get 10 hours of streaming a month. You do get 50 PC and console games. I guess that's cool, but I don't know. This seems very much like what can we do at a low cost that I don't really know if this moves the needle much for anyone.
Yeah, to me, it feels more of like a marketing beat, something that they can chuck out to be another news story, to get Xbox in the news cycle again, because I'm sure there are a specific small set of people that this is super appealing to and would get them involved in the Xbox ecosystem. But outside of those very small number of people, I have no idea who this is for. Because the people that are on Discord Nitro, more often than not, are already going to be likely heavily invested in a gaming ecosystem, if not multiple. And thus, I'm not sure what value, even though it's at no additional cost, what value having that catalog of games is going to do. Could you maybe find a game in there that you haven't played? Probably, but at the same time, I think it's much the same way that I viewed the PlayStation Plus collection at launch for PS5. It's like, oh, well, the game's in that selection. Like, it's cool to have that selection, but most people that are on PlayStation Plus that could take advantage of this have probably, in the vast majority, played these games already.
It was really helpful for me as someone coming into the PlayStation ecosystem. Yeah.
So there's definitely use cases, but in terms of like net gain, what it actually gets them, I don't know. Cost versus ROI, what that pans out like. Obviously, they have done predictions and they have analysts that are far more intelligent than me. But on the outside looking in, I'm like, I don't really see who this is for, because people that are on, again, Discord Nitro are like chatting in lots of Discord servers, mostly gaming related. And it's like, well, I imagine that if you were interested in having any Game Pass subscription at all at that point, you would probably be more than standard. So the standard inclusion kind of becomes moot at that point. Maybe that's being overly cynical, but yeah, again, no additional costs. So like, I guess you can't really complain.
Mm-hmm.
But
I did find a list of the games. Some of these are only available on, like, I know Crash Team Racing is not on PC, so they do say PC and console. Some of these, like Halo 5 Guardians, isn't on PC. You're not gonna be able to play that on if you're only a PC user. So it is interesting they chose some that can only be accessed on console. There's some good games in here though, like Psychonauts 2 is in here, Fable Anniversary, Batman Arkham Knight, Control is in here. Although we could have put Control Ultimate Edition, just saying. So like they have multiplayer stuff in here, like Golf with Your Friends. What is it? Where I just saw it. Deep Rock Galactic's in here. It kind of reminds me of that the old base Game Pass tier. I forget what it was, core, standard, whatever you want to call it. It very, very much reminds me of the games that would have been on that service.
Yeah, but again, maybe this is me getting confused. How does that make any sense when the online isn't included?
Well, if you're on PC, you don't have to pay for online.
Oh well, I guess console first. Return of Xbox.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird for sure. I do want to talk about these other ones. So Project Saluki, the Chinese only Game Pass tier. That one's a little less interesting to me. That very much seems like, hey, we need to target the Chinese base, which is something that Asher Sharma said in that big long memo we read a few weeks ago. They want to target the audience. This is a good first step. So, if we're looking back and I said we're going to hold her accountable for stuff. If this comes to pass, that is a check mark. Like they tried to get some Chinese users into the Game Pass service.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'm open to it going either way. I am interested to see, assuming this goes ahead, what the adoption rate is, because I don't know what the subscription market is like in China.
No idea.
Like how much are they interested in a sort of mass gaming subscription service that just gives you a catalog of games? So I know that they might be into the sort of, obviously they are into the like gacha stuff over there. But is there crossover in terms of wanting a plethora of games available to you? I don't know.
I also wonder, I'm going to Google it, are Xbox consoles sold in China? Oh, apparently they are. Because that was a big, some consoles are not available in China. So, I'm just Googling that to make sure, because I wonder, like, what is the console player base over there? Yeah. If this would be a PC, because they're primarily a PC market over there for sure. If this would be a PC only play for them, maybe probably cloud involved
as well.
Yeah. That's what I imagine. So, it won't affect us because it's specifically for them. But this other one, codename Positron, this disc to digital entitlement program, right? Very interesting. Very, very interesting, I think. I have quite a lot of thoughts if this ever comes to pass. It sounds like you'll be able to take your physical games and kind of convert them to a digital version of it, which I know people, I don't know if that was like an Xbox One thing that people thought was going to happen, but
yeah, there was.
Okay, because I was like, I feel like I've talked about this idea before, but my reading of this, and let me know if you think I'm way off, is this very much seems to me like Xbox, if this happens, Xbox signaling, we don't want to do physical games anymore. Take your current physical collection, put them in your disk drive. We'll give you a digital version that is now a coaster. All right, you have the digital license. We've converted that over for you because the Project Helix, our PC console hybrid, not going to have a disk drive. We want your entire library to be digital, so get on that train as soon as possible. Let's get this going, start building that library up. We can keep you in our ecosystem, but we no longer have to manufacture and sell these discs at the store, which stores around me don't even have Xbox discs anymore. They only have the digital cards. Like that, the sections are gone for digital or for disc-based games, apart from GameStop, I should say. But that was my first interpretation of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I don't know there's any other way to read it. And obviously they've been trending this direction for over a decade at this point, really. You know, from the conception of the Xbox One, even there was a trend towards digital ownership, and that's only sort of expedited with the series consoles. I think there's two ways of looking at it, right? Like, I think that if, depending on what type of consumer you are, if you were a physical or primarily physical owner in previous generations, and even early on in this generation, I guess, and you've now transitioned and are happy being digital, whether it's the convenience or the whatever, then that's great. And I think that in an ideal world, the idea of being able to transition physical license to digital license, having the option at least, is great. Like that is good for consumers, I think. But I'm also, not only does that, again, of course, mean like the death of physical media, which I'm staunchly against, even though I know it's a losing battle. We've talked about this as well a number of times. It's like I still have that part of my brain, as much as Helix is obviously a real thing, that it does allow at least an off-ramp for Xbox and or Microsoft in the future, post Helix or whatever, where it could negate the need for dedicated hardware entirely. Because if you are almost entirely, if not solely, reliant on digital licenses and have thrown away your physical licenses, you aren't tied to anything. And you're just sort of ethereally in the Xbox ecosystem, which is, you know, to be frank, exactly what they want you to be, because then that means that you are intrinsically with them regardless of where you go or what device you play on, assuming it's not a closed platform like Nintendo or PlayStation.
I think Nissa kind of nails it in the chat. She says, or maybe be able to port your games to digital for a PC handheld or PC, which I think you're onto something there for sure. Because I still believe, and Sam, you were alluding to this, that Xbox's ultimate goal is to have all of your games be digital and all of them exist PC, Project Helix, cloud, like one library, doesn't matter where you play. And we've heard rumblings of that before, like the Xbox 360, the backwards compatibility getting brought to PC. Like that would be a must, right? Because a lot of the disc-based collection I imagine people have for Xbox is those older backwards compatible titles that still like 360, original Xbox. And my only thing with that is some of those, the physical copies work, but the digital license, you can't, like, I think 50 Cent Blood in the Sand is one where you can put in your physical copy, play it, but it doesn't have a digital version. How does that get handled in this conversion, right? I think there's a lot of answers we need, but I do ultimately think this is another step towards that universal library that I've been asking for a year now, where I want to open the Xbox app on my PC, see every Xbox digital game I've ever owned. Like that is the ultimate goal I am looking for. And I think Xbox is working towards that slowly but surely.
Yeah. And like, I guess the hesitation I have outside of, again, what could be cynical and skeptical, allowing for an off-ramp, which, to be clear, I think is a logical path for Microsoft to at least give themselves the opportunity, because, you know, the precipitous drop in console sales for them generation over generation, it sort of just makes sense that even if you are putting out new hardware, which they clearly are at this stage, future-proofing yourself, regardless of which way Helix goes, is smart. So like, it's not me lambasting them for doing it. It's like, I think they're at the stage where they are preparing for every eventuality, and that's smart. I just hope that in this world where they are allowing for and even potentially incentivizing people to transition physical licenses to digital ones, like you said, of honoring and upholding licenses, how that works. I also wonder exactly how that process happens across licenses from second and third party titles, how many external publishers and developers that they have to speak with to get approvals on these things. What happens when you're trying to approach a publisher or a developer that no longer exists anymore? What is the exemption list going to look like for games that you can't do this with?
What happens to the discs after you do that? Can I take it to GameStop and get some money, and they have
they fire out like ninja stars from
paperweight now, right? Like, how would they make the disc not work anymore? That doesn't, like, the whole program needs an explanation. If it went,
little gremlins inside of your Xbox are just going to like shred the disc.
Yeah. Oh wow, Red Ring style. They start ruining the scratches.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So there are a lot of questions, and if it's handled all correctly, which again is where some of my concern comes in with Microsoft, then it could be, like plain sailing. And, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It might mean that, of course, in the future, you're stuck on prior hardware because future hardware won't support physical media. But the option would still be available to you. I just hope that there isn't some sort of, gating that's going on, or excessive gating, I should say, because inherently with digital licenses, there's going to be some gating and prohibiting what you can and can't do with it. But, yeah, again, it's one of those things where time will tell, but I think on the surface level, in a vacuum, it is a pro-consumer move. Just needs to be done well.
I agree. Well, I think that will do it for us tonight, guys. Please let us know your thoughts down below. Like the video on your way out if you haven't already. That we do appreciate that. Sam, where can everyone find you until next week, my friend?
Playing Redacted for another 5 hours. That's where they can find me. Nice, but in the meantime, anywhere and everywhere. And they can also find me looking for my pen that I just dropped. Anywhere and everywhere. Sam Heaney, HEA, anyway.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 1 to 7 I, O and 7 A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky to stay up to date with all our latest content. Until next week, we will see you